streetjournal.com. It's a cold day in December, and we are all here now. Today we're going to discuss LLCs and their use as asset protection tools in the real estate business. What do you think of LLCs as asset protection tools?
I love LLCs, but we're on.
Oh, you look pretty good. The lighting's excellent.
Like we were live there?
Yeah. Come on in.
Live. Come on in, join us.
Come on in, John.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
First of all, I guess we should define what an LLC is. Well, I'll let someone do that while I got to do some little...
An LLC is a limited liability company. An LLC is a...
There are definitely some advantages, just breaking into the conversation, I'm sorry, compared to like having a sole proprietorship and a C Corp, which LLC is similar to a sole proprietorship in that there's pass-through taxation, which makes it a lot easier. You know, as far as keeping track of your books. An advantage over that with a C Corp is that with a C Corp, technically you have to have shares and shareholders and notes for every meeting. You know, not you can't do that with an LLC, because we do that with an LLC. I think that's smart, just for tax purposes, but it's not a requirement. And an LLC creates, and y'all interrupt me if I'm wrong on this or I'm not saying it correctly, it creates another entity separate from you.
Right.
So that, hypothetically, if something happens and worst case scenario you're sued for something, it would go to the LLC and stop there versus going on to affect your personal assets. And LLCs are basically a newer animal. You know, they haven't been around forever. Maybe the last 20 years, I think, LLCs have been around, and they're defined by the state. Each state kind of defines what an LLC is, but there's a lot of, it's pretty similar, you know, it's pretty similar from state to state, but that's where it's handled. And we did a little research with LLCs, read some books, read some online stuff, and, you know, up till now, courts have upheld the integrity of LLCs, that they have not pierced the veil, you know, so to speak, between assets and the company. You know, that's not to say it'll never happen, because with the court system, you know, you never know what's going to happen with that. But up until now, you know, it's been a pretty good way to protect yourself and add another layer of protection between you and your business. You know, and I just think, you know, it also, this may not mean anything, but I think it adds a little more credibility maybe to your business. You know, it kind of means you have maybe more of your ducks in a row. I mean, that's my my 3-minute take on an LLC. Did I miss anything? Or you want to expand on anything?
Yeah, like you said, it's basically another person. I mean, the government, it's treated as it's another entity, another person. So an LLC can get loans, they can, you know, get credit, they can, you know, make decisions.
And you have to have your own tax ID number with that as well, which is important. A tax ID number is like your company's social security number. In fact, it has the same number of digits. So that is how it is recognized.
And it can also go bankrupt, and which is a good thing, that it can go bankrupt without bankrupting the members and managers.
Exactly.
And on the other side, one member or manager could go bankrupt without having the ability for the LLC's assets to be tapped, which could happen with a
general partnership.
Those
are dangerous, actually. And unfortunately, again, based on some of the recent readings that I've done over the last year or so, most businesses are either sole proprietorship or general partnerships. They don't go the extra step of doing an LLC. And that's where people get in trouble, because if we're in a general partnership and I skip town, you know, he's going to be held liable for all the debts, maybe some of my own debts, depending on what the person suing wants to try and go after, you know. So that could be a very dangerous way to go, whereas an LLC would give you an extra, again, according to the court's interpretation, should give you an extra layer of protection so that you will not lose your own personal assets should something happen within the partnership.
What do you have to say, Bob?
I think you covered. I have nothing unique.
Well, you know, we had talked, I don't know how advanced we want to get with this, but in the past, a long time ago, we had talked about maybe converting to a C Corp. You know, because I think there are some extra tax advantages.
There are tax advantages, but aren't there some tax disadvantage? Aren't there some more record-keeping requirements or some kind of disadvantage?
There is more record keeping,
right?
And you are taxed more. You're double taxed with a C Corp, but the thing is, you can take more deductions with that.
Yeah.
You know, your deductions for that are a lot larger than what it would normally be for an LLC. So it just depends on what type of business you're in. I actually recommend LLC for Dummies, which may sound kind of strange, but it's a really good book. I mean, we all read it, and that's where we kind of learned some of the language and how to structure our own company, our own LLC. So I do recommend that book. It's available on Amazon, you know, lots of places online. But one thing that I remember is the author stated that for real estate purposes, an LLC is the way to go. That you probably don't need to go and do a C Corp that with, and I don't 100% understand this, but you're going to be overtaxed if you have a C Corp.
I think it's double taxation. It's not pass through, is it?
It's not pass through.
It's not pass. It's not pass through taxation.
Well, it's like the distributions. You're taxed on your distributions, and your company is taxed.
Exactly. So it's
that's what
double
it is.
taxation.
It's double
basically.
taxation.
So that's one of the disadvantages, and that's what we had talked about.
But for some industries and for some things, that's not such a that works in their favor.
Right.
Well, the strategy that's used is not to distribute, but but for everything to be to structure everything as an expense. Of the
Exactly.
corporation.
That's where the benefit is once it's an expense, it's a 100% deduction versus the standard deduction that you would take on your personal income tax.
I think, so you're saying like basically with the corporation, everything's deductible 100%.
You want to hit zero.
You want to hit, right. You want to hit zero.
Just show no
Zero.
profit.
Show no profit.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it depends on. There's a lot of things. There's reasons you, for example, if you wanted to establish credit, you don't want to show zero profit.
Right.
If you want to try to sell somebody some or part of shares in your C Corp, you wouldn't want to do that. And so there are reasons that you wouldn't want to do that. But a lot of times what people do, and this is things that might otherwise, so things that could be perks could be written off as expenses in a
like an employee health insurance plan.
Right.
You could be employees in a corporation underwrite your health insurance,
and so there are things that you can get as shareholders. There are benefits that the company might not show, but it actually is a benefit to you. So it's possible to be at zero and still be ahead. It just depends on what you're trying to do.
And you raised a good point. I think with a C Corp, it's easier to raise capital, raise cash, because you're adding shareholders, you're selling shares, you know, which is sort of like an investment for some people, you know, like Wall Street or something. You know, I'm going to sell 1,000 shares, and people are going to pay $100 a share. Well, then I've got capital to work with, money to work with to grow my business, but I have to. They're part owners of the company. You do give away a little bit of your ownership, and that's another thing. I think with a C Corp, you have shareholders and maybe a little bit less ownership versus an LLC, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, and that's why if you're going to do that, you have to make sure that your core members maintain a majority.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to have a coup in a C Corp because
people buy out.
if you're at 50%, if the four of us established this and we established and we wanted to sell shares and we sold 49% of the shares, and so we've got 51% divided amongst us, then if any one of us could take that below 50%, and with in alignment with the other 49%, you could have control taken away from you, and that's almost always what happens. That's how these family-run corporations end up being
taking corporate takeovers. These predatory,
Absolutely.
Predatory takeovers you hear about.
And that happens. It happens all the time.
If you were in an industry where you needed cash, though, to like purchase raw materials, rent space, make a production line, hire workers, and you needed that influx, then that's where you start have shares. That's where a C Corp might be more beneficial. With real estate, you don't need that necessarily. You could.
Yeah,
but
because
it's
the
not.
LLC, usually the loans are personally guaranteed by the members, where the corporation is guaranteed by the corporation.
Or the
So
property
when
you already own.
you usually an LLC, and from what I've studied, typically an LLC, the loans are guaranteed from a corporation, so you transform or you evolve into a corporation where the corporation can actually guarantee its loans and stand on its own 2 feet and that kind of thing. So, like, you start out as an LLC, but you evolve into a corporation or a C Corp or whatever. Because like I said, the individuals guarantee the loans because he doesn't have it. It doesn't have usually a leg to stand on.
And once you start, there is a time frame, also based on our reading. If you jump right into a C Corp, you cannot go back for, I believe it's 4 or 5 years.
Right.
There's a limit to what you can do.
Of course, if I really, really, really wanted to do that,
Bankrupt it and start over.
yeah, or just dissolve it.
Dissolve it. Yeah.
In LLCs, you're not required to have a board of directors. It's member managed, so you don't have all that social overhead.
You must have a annual shareholder meeting.
Right.
Of course, the advantage of that is you can have that shareholder meeting, and the corporation can pay for the attendees, and it could be in Aruba.
That's right. A lot of times that's what happens.
I remember
That's what
too.
we're
One
planning.
thing that we had learned in our reading about an LLC is that if your state gives you an option of either giving a set time limit on the existence of the LLC versus making the LLC go on in perpetuity,
Right.
Yeah. That's
the
another
option
thing.
you want to go with in structuring your LLC is to give a time, to a finite amount of time. I think ours was 40 years or something like that.
Tell me again what the reason for that was. I don't remember. I remember that our discussion. I just don't remember the cause for that reason.
You have to. That's one of the defining characteristics of an LLC is there's an ending point, whereas a C Corp is not. And I don't know why that is.
It sort of keeps it's one of the I don't know. It's one of the things that makes it.
There's like 3 or 4 things that
less C Corp, less corporate.
LLC has to have to differentiate it from a C Corp. And one of them is a finite timeline. There's like 2 or 3 others. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember what they are.
I forget what the reason was, but but I think that's evolving because when we went to sign up for our LLC, we had the option. Our state lets you either define an ending day or make it indefinite, and we decided to do it with an set ending. I don't remember the exact reason, but it was something about the liability protection that we thought there had been some precedent in the courts that it kind of pierced the veil of the LLC, could make you vulnerable to getting the LLC.
That sounds familiar.
Your LLC to be brought into question. So, one of the the good things about an LLC is that when you go to your state and you set up your LLC, you just file the articles, right? Your articles.
You can do it online. Well, at least I think most states you can. What our state you can.
But what you really want to do when you're setting up an LLC, I'd say particularly if you're having partners, is to really take some time and talk about your operating agreement, how you're going to set up, how decisions are made, how day-to-day decisions are going to be made versus how big decisions are going to be made, and which is which, and how and what happens if somebody, what happens at termination, or if somebody either wants to stop being a member, or if they die, or what would happen in those cases if the family members of the deceased, how they would be handled as members of your LLC.
Well, let's talk about that. How does that?
Can I expand on that for just 2 seconds? In a court situation, if there are no other statutes or legal precedents, if there are no laws being broken or whatever, the court will refer back to your operating document to make the decision. So that's why it's important to have all your ducks in a row, because
you can make your own rules of how these things will be handled by through your operating agreement, and it takes precedence over state code, as long as it's
no laws are broken.
Yeah.
I mean, they will. That's like writing your own rules. So that's why you need to consider that before you do it. And again, going back to that book, we learned a lot from the LLC for Dummies. It teaches you how to write your articles in your operating agreement, like step by step. So I thought that was a very valuable resource, and we still refer to it from time to time. I'm sorry, John, I didn't mean to.
Oh no, that's perfect. I mean, so is it automatic? So if one of the members dies, does it automatically go to the heirs if it's written up? I mean,
if it's not written up, it would be.
It would probably go to probate. Blah 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 blah. I bet it would go through.
We
the
have it all
system.
written up in our own agreement, what would transpire.
Yeah.
But I guess if you don't have that written up, but there is a default that can take place where somebody's wife could be a member then with full voting, every authority that you had before, or or somebody's parents have every ability to.
And charging orders, and there's a lot of things
Oh,
that
yeah,
we've got
charging
written
orders.
written into our agreement to make sure that something unforeseen, or some tragedy, or some
that we can go forward with that.
that we could still maintain control. And that's one of the most important things when you're. That's why we spent so long building this agreement, is because we tried to foresee everything, that all the literature that we read, all the warnings that we that were issued. We really tried to be thoughtful and think about what would be best, and what if a catastrophic situation happened, how could we be protected and still go forward with the same intent that we had when we established it.
Some things to keep in mind. What if somebody's sued? I mean, what if I'm sued for something, and the person says, oh, well, he's a member of a company, I bet they've got some money, I'm going to go after that too, No, we wrote that in. You can write out charging orders so that if there's no distribution, they don't get anything, but they have to pay taxes on it. That's also a really nice thing.
That really is.
But that's a kicker, isn't it?
That's what
like
the
that.
way ours is written up. But if you do have a charging order, it's you don't meaning a judgment per se against you. Then, if we choose not to make a distribution, and we can do that through the agreement, then there's no payment. But because you have received that charging order, that's a taxable event, even though you've not collected on it. So if you try to do that, then it would be a
I
liability.
think we
for
should
you.
define what a charging order for those that probably.
Well, it could be a judgment.
A judgment. Okay.
Yeah, like you have to pay,
A court
or
order,
you have
judgment
a court
from a
order to
creditor.
pay money from the company or whatever, or you
Where does
personally.
it say? Where you
And
It says
then
that
if you get a charging order and that
came from a court
happens,
or judgment credit.
you be sure and let the IRS know about that. You tell the person, I'm going to let the IRS know that you're going to owe taxes on this, and they'll handle it from there. So that's something that the person we talk about being sued and stuff, and like John brings up a lot of times, there's one thing to say you're going to sue somebody, and it's another thing to do it. But it's good to have your ducks in a row just in case. Another thing we have in there is how we're going to, let's see if I say this right, like how we're going to distribute our taxes at the end, because we have some unique taxes with our situation that maybe other people don't have, and so we have it written so that maybe 3 of us get to take the maximum deductions with the company versus all 4, and that's okay. I mean, you can define it. It sounds weird, but it works for us. You can define that as however you want to. So again, the operating agreement really defines how your company is going to be run, and you can amend it. You can make amendments to your operating agreement. That is possible. And in fact, what I read, people need to bring out their operating agreement every year or so, which we haven't done. It may not be such a bad idea now that I say that, to look at our operating agreement. We haven't looked at it carefully.
There are some minimum household maintenance things you have to do with your state to maintain your LLC. There's some every year. There's some communication you have to send to your state. In our state, it's the Secretary of State. I don't know if that's everywhere.
Or they can administratively withdraw you if you don't turn your paperwork in.
Yeah. And that's like what is it you turn in?
It's an annual report you're supposed to do.
Annual report.
Which I think John handles that.
Already did it. We had to pay the fee.
Good. Yeah. You have to pay your annual fee and and I
It's
think,
like
three
April,
different
right?
companies
You have to
that
do it
have
by
some-
April.
Yeah.
I think another thing with the LLC, you have to define, is it manager or member managed? That's another prerequisite.
Member managed or manager managed.
And those are different.
And that was important. I think we figured out that you want it to be manager managed, and the core movers and shakers in your LLC will all be managers.
Especially if you want
managers.
if there's a chance that you might take on additional members.
Yes.
That's where it becomes important.
So you'll be a manager, and your new person that you bring in, you can bring them in at a junior status as a member,
And we've
they
actually
have
got it written, I
treatment.
believe, that no new member can become a manager. I believe we established
I
We
think
might
it
have
was.
said that.
I think it was something like that.
we might have
Yeah.
said that,
We're-
and that was
we were trying to protect the possibility that to keep somebody from coming in and trying to give somebody an opportunity, or trying to help us, and then them trying to manipulate things. So yeah, we've
Like
got all
they're
this. We've got a lot of planning for future expansion and growth.
yeah.
I can't wait till we can fill all that in and use it.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of provisions that we don't have a need for yet.
Yeah.
See, because we're all single men, and if any of us would get married, our new wife couldn't come in
Right.
and take over.
And those have been divorced from crazy women, haven't we?
That I haven't had that happen.
We haven't had that happen yet, but when we do get married,
And they get divorced. Yeah.
people are so rude.
Like keeping their phones on.
So let's see, what else about an LLC? LLCs, again, a lot of major corporations out there in the U.S. actually are LLCs instead of C-Corps. I mean, any size company can be an LLC.
Chrysler's an
Yeah,
LLC.
exactly. It's a
I mean,
perfect
that's amazing
example.
to me.
Yeah, exactly. So it just depends on what you.
But I
wanna
think
do.
that must be an owner of a. I mean, there's got to be.
Might be some kind of holding company.
Exactly.
Maybe?
Mhm.
But it's just when you see their advertising, it's Chrysler LLC.
Mhm.
I mean, that's to me that's astonishing.
So C corps aren't just for huge companies. I mean, LLCs are for anybody. Oh, I know. Another thing, prerequisite, you have to define what state it is set up in. That's another thing. We decided to do ours in West Virginia, just because it's local. Can I say our state? I guess they know what we're doing now. West Virginia, but you don't have to. You can set it up in Delaware, which is another big state that people like to set up their companies in because it has some more favorable. Go Delaware! It has some more favorable tax laws, so to speak. A lot of companies are headquartered there, but you do have to provide an address for them. You have to provide a contact person, and some other little thing you had to do. But I mean, you could physically make it so that your company is headquartered in Delaware, even though you operate in another state. So that's
Well, which that
possible.
makes it because some states we have better protections for like
Mhm. Yeah.
for LLCs and others. Like you said.
So that's why all the credit card companies have at least something to do with Delaware.
Yeah, we like
Yeah.
Delaware as a matter of fact.
Yeah, actually we do. Personally, I
So we
like
have our
Delaware.
annual.
Our retreats
shareholder
are in
annual
Delaware.
meeting.
Yep. Yep.
Well, it's 11:30. It's that
It's
time
time to
again.
It's that time
I can't
again.
believe the time goes so
It
fast.
just flies by.
I think
Hope
that was
everyone,
good.
Yeah.
it was very good. Hope everyone buys our recommended readings, LLC for Dummies, off our website.
We should put that on.
We will. It's on there already.
Oh, okay. But honestly,
LLC for Dummies
it's a
on our
good book.
website. It really
it's
is
a good
book.
read. We still refer to it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Very educational book.
So just go to Landlord's Journal recommended
Mm-hmm.
picks on our website
And everything.
make sure you order that book.
Quick disclaimer. We learned a lot of this on our own, but it does not ever take the place of a qualified attorney.
No, it does
So,
not. Or exactly.
Let me just say that right now. It's a good idea to find you a good real estate or
We didn't
corporate
do that.
attorney.
Yeah.
None of this had
We're
anything.
not,
We didn't do anything with the attorney.
You're not-
We
didn't?
not.
I just-
Zero.
Oh no, we have a good attorney.
But I don't want
She-
anybody
We
to.
talked
we,
about
we
LLC.
have a
We-
good
We have
attorney.
great attorneys, but I just.
But we didn't use this attorney for developing
Yeah,
LLC.
you can definitely do it yourself. That's true. But if you have any doubts, so you don't get in trouble,
We
Consult an
discussed it
attorney.
with her.
Yeah.
Our first meeting with her, we talked about our business
Our
structure and
LLC,
LLC and all that kind of stuff. So we had some guidance. We
it's good to
didn't-
get guidance if you're just
Yeah.
starting out. For
We didn't.
sure.
We didn't necessarily take.
Or you can go to the forums at landlordsjournal.com.
Okay, so then next week, what's our topic next
Our
week,
topic
John?
next week. What is today? The 12th. Our topic next week. We're talking about mobile home park investing.
Oh,
Yeah,
I would
so
love
that's,
to
that's
talk about
really-
that.
A couple of us, or not a couple, one of us has some experience with that, and so he's going to be our feature speaker next week. It is mobile
Okay.
home. Yeah, December 19th. Talking about mobile home park investing.
Yeah, yeah.
None of the rest of us have dealt with that. You have, so we're going to talk about that next week. And on December 26th, we'll get there. We'll talk about that next week. I'm not sure what we're talking about. But that's all for today. Bob, I'm going to shut her down.
Bye-bye, America.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Thank you for joining us today on landlordsjournal.com. That was our podcast that was originally aired on Ustream back in December, I believe. For future shows and announcements, be sure to visit us on landlordsjournal.com. We encourage you to visit our forums and interact with us on the Ask a Landlord feature of our website to ask any questions, voice any concerns, or just communicate with us in general. So, be on the lookout for our next show. We are now on iTunes, so hopefully you are downloading that from iTunes or going to our website at landlordsjournal.com and downloading it there. Be on the lookout for our next show. It is on the schedule tab of landlordsjournal.com. Thank you.